Hi, I'm Doug Marks with Metal Method. This lesson is all about actually using the 5 patterns of the pentatonic scale. This is a very important lesson for more than half of you. Now, how do I know this? Well, I have a skills assessment survey that I ask my students to fill out before their first lesson. That way, I don't need to ask, what would you like to learn today? I already know what they need to learn. And by the way, a link to this survey is in the video description. Fill it out and learn what you need to practice. This survey gives me and my students graphic information on guitar playing skills. The question we'll address today from the survey is, can you easily identify all of the root notes in the 5 positions of the pentatonic minor scale? Now, over half of all respondents answered no. The remaining 44.2%, if I tested them personally, many would fail. This means that most of you don't actually know how to use the pentatonic scale. So this is important stuff, and this lesson explains why. Now, this lesson is an approach to the pentatonic scale that will help you understand the entire fretboard. The lesson teaches how to use all 5 pentatonic patterns instead of just the first shape. If you've studied my complete guitar course, you should have memorized all 5 patterns in the first 5 weeks of the course. So let me demonstrate the 5 patterns quickly. So here's the first pattern, second pattern, here's the third, fourth, and here is the fifth. We'll play it down here, starting with the G. If you haven't already learned the 5 patterns, you need to memorize them before this lesson will make sense. So get to work and check out this video later. Memorizing these patterns is no more difficult than learning 5 new chord diagrams. So it's really not that difficult. What is difficult is learning how to apply them. So even though most of you have memorized these patterns, they're fairly useless unless you can play the pentatonic scale from root note to root note in all of the patterns. And that's the catch, root note to root note in all of the patterns. Let me demonstrate. Okay, this is in A minor, if I didn't mention that before. People love the first pattern because they've used it so much, they instinctively know where the root notes are. It actually starts with A, which makes it really easy. So that's the pentatonic scale. Well, we normally resolve it. It's got 5 notes, but we resolve it into the next root note. So root to root. Here's the next pentatonic scale. The other patterns aren't as easy to use. The first pattern, as I mentioned, started on the A note. So if you want to move it around, well, here's C. Put A in the position you're playing C minor. If we take the third pattern, for example, it starts on a D note. Now that's a little confusing. What you need to do is actually start on the root note, which is here, the A. So there's the pattern. The A minor pentatonic pattern within that third pattern. As I mentioned earlier, there are 2 complete octaves in the first pentatonic pattern. In fact, these 2 octaves are the only complete octaves found in the first 15 frets, regardless of what pattern you're playing. There's only 2 octaves. Here's the second pattern. Here's the third. And here is the fourth. You may have noticed these are all the same octave. I mean, basically, they're the same notes in the same order. All of them are the same octave as the second pentatonic in the first pattern. Here's why this is so important. Everything begins to be in an order in each pattern that makes sense. The most common bend is a whole step bend. You can bend the second, third, and fifth notes in the pentatonic scale. Here's the pentatonic scale: first, second, third, fourth, and fifth tone. So you can bend the second tone, third, and the fifth tone. So as I said, this is where it all starts to make sense, because in every one of these root to root patterns, you know automatically that you can bend the second, third, and fifth tones. So you're no longer confused when you're in, for example, the fourth pattern. Other notes in the pattern are important because they allow you to move to a higher or lower pitched phrase. Of course, these notes are in the scale, but they're outside the root to root scale. They can still be used as part of phrases. Just make root to root the anchor of the phrase. If you find memorizing these patterns difficult, the root to root patterns, begin by noticing how some of the patterns are played exactly the same on 3 strings. So you're off to a head start. For example, the first pattern, same notes as here. Same pattern, same notes. See how that pattern is absolutely identical? This is the fifth pattern. Notice how it looks very similar to, because of the tuning of the B string, we have to move each one of these up a half step, but this pattern on 3 strings is almost identical. Here in the third pattern, they are identical. So this is not as difficult to utilize as most people imagine. This technique also allows you to move licks into other positions. This is how you begin to master the fretboard. Also, when you know the root note of a root to root scale, it allows you to move all patterns to another key. So this is the second pattern, root to root. There's a root note. Just to put it in F, find the F note. And now you know this is the second pattern of F. It helps you to see where all the other patterns of F are situated. One more thing that happens is you begin to learn the sound of notes before you even play them. This is very similar to how you may recognize the sound of intervals in the first position right now. I've covered a lot in a very short period of time. You may need to review this a few times to comprehend everything that I've explained. Even better, I give private guitar lessons on Zoom. Schedule a session and I'll help you with this personally. There's a link in the video description to schedule a lesson. Current students, people that already take lessons from me, ask me for the guitar tab to practice these patterns, root to root, along with other lesson materials that I have. If you have enjoyed this lesson, please subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. I'm anxious to see your comments. Teach me something. What's your unique approach to the pentatonic scale? I'll see you in my next video.